back to my channel. So today I'll be showing you guys how to make this straight cut dress with a ruffle at the neckline and ruffle at the bottom. So for that you might need about 2.5 yards of fabric. So let's get into the video. So guys, this is what I did here. I cut out the fabric into two here. One is my back panel and one is my front panel. So the width I used here is just the widest part of your body. So the widest part I'm working with is 44, which is the hip. And then what you're going to do is divide the 44 by 4. 4 meaning 1, 2, 3, and 4 layers of this folded fabric. You know, one is folded into 2 and the other one is folded into 2. So I divide the 44 by the hip measurement by 4. So for me it's 44 divided by 4 is 11. So 11 inches. I added about 1 inch for seam allowance and half an inch for my, I added extra 2 inches, 1 inch for seam allowance and 1 inch for ease, because this is a free dress. So the next thing you're going to do for the length is just measure from your shoulder to where you want your ruffle to start for the bottom of the dress. So for me, I want it to start at 31. And then you add extra 1 inch to it for seam allowance. So that's why I have 32 here for the length. So now we'll start cutting. So the first thing you're going to do is to check what your shoulder measurement is. So the shoulder measurement I'm working with is 16. 16 divided by 2, that's going to be 8. So I'm going to mark that here. And then your armhole, the armhole I'm working with is 20. 20 divided by 2 is 10. So I'm going to mark that here and then go up this way. And then remember, this line of your armhole, the line that you marked here, this is going to also be your bust line. So on this line is where I'm going to mark my bust measurement. So the bust measurement I'm working with is 40. 40 divided by 4 is going to be 10. So I have 10 here. And as you can see, I folded this two fabric and I didn't give any zip allowance because it's going to be button at the top instead of zip. So the front and the back are the same, because normally the back you might have about, for the back sometimes you might have about 1 inch this way for your zip allowance, but as you can see the two of them are equal. So the next thing you're going to do is to mark your bust measurement. So for me that's 10 plus extra 1 inch for seam allowance, that's 11. And then I'm going to add extra half an inch for ease. So I added 1.5 to it. So from here, I'm going to mark your shoulder to bust, which is 10, this line, shoulder to waist, which is 16, and shoulder to hip, which is 24. So this is shoulder to bust, shoulder to waist, shoulder to hip. So I'm going to skip this waist line. I'm going to go down straight to the hip line. So for the hip, this shoulder to hip, what I'm going to do here is the hip measurement I'm working with is 44 divided by 4, that's 11. I'm going to add 1 inch for my seam allowance, that's 12, and half an inch for ease, that's 12.5. So I'm going to mark that here. If you want to use 1 inch for your ease, if you want it loose, then you can use 1 inch, but I'm using half an inch for ease. So basically I added 1.5 to whatever I got for my hip measurement here, and I also added 1.5 for my bust. So what you're going to do now is to connect these two lines together. You're going to connect the bust to the hip, measurement. So I'm going to mark it this way. As you can see, I didn't do anything to the waistline. So what you're going to do is the same measurement you got for your hip is what you're going to use at the end of this dress. So the measurement I got here was 12.5. So that's also what I'm going to mark at the end here. So connect it all the way to the top part here. So this is going to be the end of my dress here. So we are going to go back up here again. So now we are back up to the shoulder. So you're going to measure your neckline. So I'm making mine 3.2 by 3.2, right? So I'm going to mark it here. If you want, you can make it 3.5 by 3.5. Because remember, you're going to have a ruffle at the neck and you don't want the ruffle choking you. So you might want to make it, if you're more on the smaller side, maybe work with 3 inches by 3 inches. But if you're more on the bigger side, maybe make yours 3.5. by 3.5. So I'm going to come down also by 3.25. So I'm going to come down here, and then I'm going to mark my neckline. So after that, come down here, mark your shoulder slant 1 inch, right? Come down 1 inch on this here and mark your shoulder slant. Join it up to this point here. And then the next thing is to curve your armhole, right? And then remember, you still have to put in your back neckline. So I'm going to come down 1 inch for my back neckline. You can make yours 1.5, but I'm using 1 inch for the depth of the back neckline. So if you look closely at the picture, you'll find that the bottom part here has like an angle. It's not straight. So I'm just going to go up by 2 inches here. If you want, you can make yours 1.5, right? And then you just curve it. Give it like a curve to join this line here. So I'm going to cut this out now. So first thing you're going to do is to first cut out the back neckline. Out, goes to your shoulder slant, and then all the way down. So guys, remember I've cut out mine. So now remember that from your shoulder to okay, so you're going to come down about 19 inches on your waist. That's where your pocket is going to start, like shoulder to 19 inches, and then you might have about 5 inches opening or 6 inches, it depends on you. And then if you want, you can make it like shoulder to 18 inches is where your pocket will start, and then you add about extra then mark 6 inches down is where your pocket will be, right? So from this 19 inches to this point here is where your pocket will be. So what you want to do is to notch it, right? So you know that this is where the opening of your pocket will be. So I've notched it here. So the next thing I'm going to do is, as you can see, I also cut out the curve here. So separate the front from the back. If you want at the back here, because it's going to be button, if you want, you can just come down by 6 inches and mark it as your, and just cut it like a straight line, right? Just slit it open here. Or if you want to give it a design, you can just give it like a curve. So this is where my 6 inches is, right? Like give it a curve all the way in, curve it out, and then mark it like you're marking a semicircle. Just make sure that when you mark it, that your point is still the same here, right? You see? So you just curve it. Take your ruler, measure. If you want it, the slit at the back to be 6 inches, you know this is 6 inches, right? You mark the 6 inches here, and then from here, just give it like a semicircle, and then come up here. But make sure that when you're coming up here, you point your mark up to this point here. So that, because why I'm saying this is so that the distance between the two parts of the back will not be too wide. So let me show you guys. So I've cut out this like a peep hole at the back. So this is going to be the back now. So you want to have like a line here, right? So this is supposed to be the center back. Let me open it up. So this is going to be the center back here. Make sure that you don't have much distance between the two, so that your neckline will be, it won't be like wide apart when you want to put the button, you see? So this is what I'm saying. The first thing I'm going to do is to go to the sewing machine and join my shoulders together, right? You join the shoulder, right side facing each other, join this side and also join this side. And then after that, you're going to take your tape and measure around your neckline, right? Sorry. Measure around your neckline all the way to the back, like round from where your button will be up to the front, round everything. Whatever you get is what you're going to use to cut out the length of your length of your ruffle. So guys, after that, whatever you got for the round neckline, you're going to multiply it by 2.5 or multiply it by 2. It depends on you. So after that, so this is what I'm using for mine. and the length of my own is about 46. So 46 inches is what I'm using for mine. And then the width you're going to cut out is about 3.5. If you want it higher, maybe use 4 inches, but the width for mine is 3.5 inches is the width. So what you're going to do is I'm going to fold this into 2, and then after folding it into 2, go to the sewing machine and make a stitch and close up one end. You might want to close up the 2 ends, right? Close up this end and then the other end, right? So but I'm going to show you guys with this end here. So when you close it up, you're going to, let's say I'm using this pin to show that I've closed this up now. So when you close it up, you're going to flip it inside out, right? You flip it. So guys, let's say I've closed up this end, you flip it out, right? When you flip it out, you have something like this, right? So you have this length now. So what you're going to do is to go to the sewing machine and start plaiting it, right? You start plaiting, like putting it on top of each other this way. So I hope you guys can see. You put it on top and just keep sewing it this way. So when you can see, just keep pleating it this way. You pleat, you pinch it out, you pleat, you pinch it, like you iron it down so that you make sure that it has the same length, and then you go on and keep pleating it. You keep pleating. So you see what I'm saying here, and then you make a stitch at the end here. Make a stitch at the end all the way to the end. At this ruffled part, this part that is open, that's where you make your stitch. This top part is going to be facing your neck, but this one is the part you're going to attach to your neckline. So guys, I've gone ahead and attached mine. So this is how I did it. I just joined the 2 ends of this together. I took the fabric this way, kept on sewing it. That's after making the pleat. And then the next thing you see why I said to close up the 2 ends before you start attaching it. You see I closed it up before I started attaching it. And also try to use bias to finish up your back neckline before you start to finish up the neckline. So guys, basically you join your shoulders together, right? And then you come back and finish up this back neckline with bias. When you finish up the back before you now start joining the top. If not, if you join this ruffle before you finish up the back, then there's no way you can put in the bias for the back. So first you put in your bias, line up the back of your neckline, and then you start from one end. You can start from this side, you can start from the other side, and start putting in the ruffle, and then you do it all the way around. When you're done, you give it a top stitch. That you make a stitch on top of it, facing the excess down into the fabric, not facing it up. Like push it down. As you can see, it's facing inside of the fabric, not facing up this way. So you push it in, and then you keep making a stitch all the way around. So that's why when you make that top stitch, then this ruffle can be able to stand. So that's how you're going to get the ruffle to stand, and then you iron it also. So the next thing I'm going to do now is and when you're done, you put in your just cut out like a 4-inch strap, and then put it in for your buttonhole. So this is going to be my buttonhole. The next thing is to just get a small button and put on this side to use to close it up, you see. So when you close it up, these ends are already finished. This side is also finished. So you have something like this at your back. I'm going to make a separate video to explain this whole ruffle. The way the fabric is folded is into 2. So I have 2 of this, and then 2 for the one for each side of your sleeve. So the width here is my armhole divided by 2. So armhole is 20 divided by 2 is 10. So what you're going to do is go up here and mark what you're going to use for the ruffle. So that's, for me, I'm using 3 inches. Come down from that 3 inches and mark your sleeve cap, the cap height. So that's going to be here. So I'm going to mark. So guys, if you want yours longer, you can make your sleeve longer, but this, from this point here, is what my sleeve would be, right? So I'm making my sleeve about 9.5 inches. So you add extra 1.5 inches to it. So that's how you're going to determine the length of your sleeve. So if you're using 4 inches for the puffies part of it, then you're going to know that you're going to have extra 4 inches on top here, and then you're not going to add what you want your sleeve length to be. So for me, it's 9.5 plus, then you add extra 1.5 inches to it. So it's basically like this here. So this is just your sleeve. right? This is where you're going to check what your sleeve will be, and then you add extra 1.5 to it. But then remember, you still have to add 3 inches or 4 inches for your puffiness, which is going to come from this top part here. So from this point, you're going to mark your sleeve. So you mark this point to this point here, and then you're going to mark it out, connect it to this point here, and then find the center. So for me, it's 10. The center is going to be about 5. That's half of the 10. So from here, you're going to draw your normal sleeve, right? So from there, you draw your normal sleeve. But then remember, so right now this would be your normal sleeve, right? If you mark it here, this is your normal sleeve. But remember, your sleeve, you want to have a puffy sleeve. So from this point here, you're going to connect it to this this half point here is going to go up and meet this top part here. That's this half mark that you drew here, which is 5 inches, which is the midpoint from this point to this point. So you're going to connect it to this top part here to make the puffiness. So after that, I'm not going to reduce this here. I'm not going to reduce the bottom here because I want it to be open, just like the picture. So what I'm going to do now is to cut this out. So this is what it would look like here. So this is your puffy sleeve here. So I have 2 of this here. So basically, you go to the sewing machine, you join all this together, and then slowly you start putting in your sleeve. So you see, you're getting the puffiness this way. So after that, the next thing you're going to do, if you want your sleeve longer, is then you might want to make it longer. So what I'm going to do is elastic and measure the top part of your arm where the sleeve, the elastic band is going to be, right? So you measure it. For me, it's somewhere here. So you have about this much, and then you're going to cut 2 of it, right? But remember to make yours tight. I'm just trying to show you guys. Remember to make it tight, because remember, elastic stretches, and you're not going to need any seam allowance here. So after that, what you're going to do, let's say I'm using this much. I have 2 of it now, right? So what you're going to do is just go to the sewing machine, mark the point where you want it to be. Maybe let's say you want it on this line here, right? You want it on this line here. So what you're going to do is to, let me use this one sleeve for example. So you're going to use it, hold it down here, make a stitch. Sorry, this is the one I'm using. You're going to just hold it here, put it underneath it, make a stitch, and then follow this line, right? The line that you've made, you're just going to follow it and pull the elastic as you sew. So guys, I've cut out what I'll use for my ruffle. It's about 5 inches width. Just measure the end of your clothes round and multiply it maybe by 2.5. So that's what I'm going to use here. For me, I'm using 5 inches plus extra 1.5 for seam allowance. So that is about 6.5 for the width here. So guys, I'm also going to sew the elastic to the sleeve and show you guys. So guys, you see I've attached the elastic now. If you spread it out, this is what it looks like. So now I'm going to go ahead and also fold the rough end. So I'm going to go ahead and put in the sleeve now. Guys, this is it here. I'm done. I've put in my sleeve. I've done the 2 sides, and then this is the length. So that's basically it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. Bye.